Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is, well, it's pretty simple. To give you a shortcut to being well informed about this massive, almost existential transformation in how we learn.
And we're not just talking about education for kids.
No, not at all.
Okay.
This is for every single person who plans to work for, the next few decades.
We've synthesized key excerpts from Lifelong Learning in the Cognitive Age, which is, it's a really critical collection of research. It defines what's required for the future workforce.
And the core argument is?
The sources argue that the old, rigid structures for learning, the industrial era models, they're just failing us.
Why, though? What's the driver?
It's the speed of technological change. AI, automation, it's making knowledge obsolete faster than ever before.
The pace is the key. Yeah. The sources really outline this fundamental shift in our relationship with learning itself. And if there's one core concept you need to anchor onto, it's this. In the past, we learned to work. In the future, we will work to learn.
That's a huge shift.
It is. Learning is moving from being this, preparatory phase, that 4-year sprint after high school, to a continuous career-defining flow.
And what's fascinating here is the sheer urgency this creates for everyone listening.
Right.
That old 20th century model, get educated, work for 40 years, then retire, that whole sequence is just fundamentally unsustainable now.
It's broken.
Completely. With longer lifespans and the speed of tech, a 60-year working life might demand, maybe 4 or 5 complete professional reinventions.
4 or 5, wow.
And your ability to do that, to reinvent, it relies entirely on making learning a non-negotiable part of your actual workflow.
Okay, let's unpack this with the data that really drives the point home.
Yeah, the numbers are stark.
The whole notion that a static 10-year-old university degree can sustain an entire career is, well, it's mathematically impossible in a lot of fields now. The source material highlights a figure that I just found. Shocking. The half-life of a technical skill is currently around 5 years, and is shrinking.
And think about what that means in practice.
Go on.
If you're a specialized professional today, say, an expert in a specific programming language or a traditional financial model, half of what you knew 5 years ago is either automated, optimized, or just irrelevant.
So the ground is constantly shifting under your feet.
Constantly. The challenge isn't just that new tech like AI is arriving, it's that automation is systematically consuming all the routine expertise. It just eats it up.
Leaving only the really complex problems for us humans.
Exactly, the interdisciplinary stuff, which leads to this great unspoken truth of modern education.
Which is that we're investing all this time and money preparing students for a world that's already gone.
That's it. The direct quote from the analysis nails it perfectly. We are training students for jobs that may not exist to solve problems we have not yet defined.
That sounds like a complete catastrophe, a failure of the system.
It does on the surface.
Yeah.
But the sources brilliantly reframe it.
Right.
This isn't a statement of failure. It's, and I love this phrase, an invitation to reinvent.
An invitation to reinvent. I like that.
It means we have to abandon the idea of preparing for some fixed endpoint and pivot toward preparing for continuous adaptation.
So if the old model is broken, how do we reinvent? This brings us to the idea of moving from the industrial age pipeline to the cognitive age platform.
Right. The pipeline model was simple, linear, standardized, and it was all about that credential at the end.
Like an assembly line.
Exactly. Everyone went in, and a pretty identical product came out. The cognitive age, though, demands a platform.
And a platform is, what, more flexible?
It's modular, adaptive, and highly personalized. It lets you build skills piece by piece, filling the specific knowledge gaps you have right when they appear.
Instead of going back to square one every time.
You don't have to restart the whole process. And this isn't just theory. We're seeing nations actually do this.
Right. The sources cite places like Finland and Singapore. They aren't waiting around.
No, they're being incredibly aggressive. They've woven AI-assisted learning directly into their national curricula.
So the tech is actually teaching the students.
In a way, yeah. It monitors performance constantly, adjusting the pace, the depth, the type of content, all of it. It's targeted precisely at the student's current learning edge.
So it respects that someone might be great at abstract math, but, struggle with applied stats.
Exactly. And it adjusts their path. It's truly personalized.
And this isn't just happening in schools. There's a seismic shift in where professional credentials actually come from.
Oh, absolutely. Corporations are stepping up to fill the training gap that slow-moving universities have left wide open.
Because the market just moves too fast for a traditional accreditation cycle.
Way too fast. Companies like IBM, Amazon, they're not just hiring for skills anymore. They are creating them.
Through these global upskilling academy.
Right. And they issue these micro-credentials. And the critical part is that these are often recognized across entire industries. In some fields, they're more current and, frankly, more relevant than a traditional diploma.
It almost feels like a historical echo. The sources mention the reemergence of professional guilds.
It is. But they're digital now. These are peer-reviewed networks that validate your mastery based on demonstrated practice.
So based on what you can actually do, not just a piece of paper you got years ago.
Precisely. The whole insight here is that learning is becoming less about the ownership of static knowledge, that degree on the wall, and more about having continuous access to learning loops.
Loops that keep your skills verifiable and current. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, because the source material makes this pretty provocative argument.
I think I know where you're going.
It says the most transformative affected universities of the next decade might not be universities at all. They'll be companies.
The line between employee and student is just dissolving.
It's the embedded classroom.
It is. Employers are taking on the role of educators because they have the most immediate need and they have the most current data on the skill gaps.
Like Amazon's career choice program. That one is wild.
It's almost revolutionary. Amazon prepays tuition for any field, even if that field has nothing to do with their business.
Wait, hang on. So if an employee wants to leave Amazon to become, say, a nurse or a welder, Amazon pays for it.
They pay for it.
Why would they do that?
They're investing in the long-term employability of the person. They know that creating a culture of learning attracts better talent, it reduces burnout, and it improves morale. It's a retention tool, but it's also a huge economic signal.
That makes a strange kind of sense. Then you have something like Google's career certificates.
Right, which have become rapidly recognized hiring credentials by hundreds of other employers.
I mean, Google is basically creating an alternative, faster credentialing track that just completely bypasses the traditional university system for certain roles.
For specific entry-level tech roles, yeah. And it's not just tech. Manufacturing giants like Siemens and Schneider Electric have these amazing internal academies.
What do they teach?
Highly specific technical, reskilling, advanced robotics, that sort of thing. But they integrate it with crucial skills like ethics and foresight. Education is no longer external. It's part of the firm's infrastructure.
So this massive corporate investment, is this just philanthropy, or is it purely economic?
Oh, it is pure capital expenditure dressed up as opportunity. The economics are absolutely clear.
It's cheaper to retrain than to rehire.
Much cheaper. Turnover costs a fortune. The research shows a single employee leaving can cost up to 1.5 times their salary to replace.
That's recruitment, onboarding, lost knowledge.
All of it. Retraining preserves that institutional memory and stabilizes your workforce. Firms are starting to treat expertise not as an expense, but as a renewable strategic resource.
Okay, so if the private sector has figured this out, where does that leave the public sector? Because it seems like public policy is really lagging behind.
Demonstrably lagging. Most government education funding is still so heavily weighted toward programs for young people.
It completely ignores the fact that the average working adult is going to need to reskill multiple times.
Multiple times. And they'll need financial support to do it. The government has to become a learning architect for the whole nation.
Are there any examples of governments actually doing this? Policies that focus on the adult worker?
Yes, and they provide the blueprint for a new social contract. Singapore's Skills Future credits are probably the best-known example.
That's a budget for training given to every citizen, right?
A lifelong training fund, yeah. It subsidizes the cost of courses.
Okay, that handles the financial cost. But what about the cost of time? It's hard to take 6 months off work.
And that's where countries like Denmark come in. They offer subsidized mid-career sabbaticals specifically for reskilling.
And the state helps protect your income while you do it.
Critically, yes. So taking time off to learn doesn't financially devastate your family.
Then there's Canada's model.
Canada is piloting a national learning passport. It's tied to portable benefits and micro-credentials.
So you can take your skill record and your support with you, from job to job.
It adds that portability and flexibility.
This isn't just a minor policy tweak. This is the sketch of a whole new social contract.
It is. A contract where the state no longer guarantees lifetime employment. That's impossible in an AI-driven economy. But it guarantees lifetime employability.
That is a monumental difference.
Huge.
All right, shifting gears a bit. Let's talk about the human side of this. Because policy and economics are one thing. But the sources argue the biggest obstacle isn't tuition or time. It's psychological.
The internal resistance.
Yeah, that fear of starting over. I think everyone listening has felt that. The fear of being too old for code.
It's a huge hurdle. We build our professional identities around our past mastery. When that mastery becomes obsolete, it feels like an identity crisis. The fear of failure, of being exposed as a non-expert.
So how do the successful reskilling programs deal with that?
They recognize they have to treat confidence and identity right alongside the content.
The real obstacle is ego.
It's the ego, the illusion that expertise is static, that you've already arrived. The best programs use coaching, peer mentorship, emotional intelligence training, all designed to help people shift their identity from expert to curious learner.
You have to give people permission to be ignorant again.
Permission to ask the basic questions without shame.
Exactly.
And while we're managing the human ego, we have this indispensable partner in the room, AI.
Right. Let's talk about AI as both teacher and student.
The immediate applications seem clear. Adaptive platforms, 247 chatbots that can tutor you in any language.
And simulated environments. A surgeon can practice a complex procedure over and over, or a pilot can train for a rare emergency, all with zero real-world risk.
But the more profound idea, the one the sources call reciprocal, is that AI is learning from us as we learn from it.
This is the two-way mirror concept. It's fascinating.
Explain that.
Every single interaction you have with an AI learning system, every question you ask, every time you correct an error it makes, every time your curiosity takes you down a path it didn't expect, you are feeding it fresh, real-world data.
You're training the machine.
Precisely. You are turning every learner into a co-teacher of machines. Your act of learning simultaneously refines the system for the next person.
So education is no longer a monologue. It's a high-speed two-way mirror where the human and the algorithm are constantly shaping each other.
So what does this mean for workplace culture? If learning is a constant flow, organizations have to foster that flow.
Deliberately. The sources are crystal clear on this. Learning needs cultural permission to thrive.
You have to reward exploration, not just execution, even if it leads to small failures.
And that permission has to come from the very top. When a CEO publicly enrolls in a new, challenging course, whether it's coding or advanced ethics, it sends a powerful signal.
It says learning is part of leadership, not a sign of a deficit.
It makes ignorance an opportunity, a source of momentum, not a source of shame.
Okay, finally, let's wrap up by talking about measurement. Because if the world is fluid, then our static metrics, grades, degrees, they feel like relics.
They're completely useless relics. The question, what did you know when you finished this course 5 years ago, is totally irrelevant.
The new question that matters most is,
how fast can you learn what you don't know today? That measure of intellectual velocity, that's the new currency.
And the sources define these key indicators we need to measure: learning agility, adaptability, and reflective capacity.
Right, and we need to be clear what those mean. They're not just buzzwords.
Go ahead.
Learning agility is being able to take knowledge from one domain and apply it to another. Adaptability is how fast you integrate new tools into your workflow.
And reflective capacity.
That might be the most crucial one. It's the ability to honestly assess your own knowledge gaps, admit you don't know something, and then formulate the right questions to close those gaps.
That just completely changes how we evaluate talent. I mean, imagine performance reviews that track skills you acquired last quarter, instead of just years served in a role.
We need to go even bigger than that. Imagine national statistics that measure a country's collective learning velocity, and we hold it to be as important as GDP.
How would you even measure that?
You could track enrollment in high-demand micro-credentials against unemployment in legacy industries. You could see the shift in real time. In the cognitive age, a nation's true wealth is its rate of re-education, its intellectual momentum.
So this deep dive has shown us, the linear career path is dead, the corporate classroom is rising, and the most valuable currency isn't what you know, is how curious you are. The challenge for everyone listening is pretty clear. Replace the myth of mastery, this idea that you ever arrive, with the practice of curiosity.
That daily commitment to just ask better questions, to stay teachable.
Because that's what future-proofs you. That's what keeps you relevant when the ground shifts beneath your feet.
It's everything.
And if we accept the premise that the machines are continually learning from our curiosity, from our questions, here's the final provocative thought for you to mull over. What specific, difficult, and genuinely foundational question could you ask today of your AI tutor, your boss, or your peer that would simultaneously advance your own knowledge and tangibly refine the learning systems of the future? Think about that exponential ripple effect as you go. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.